Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast. The podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman, and in this episode, I'm going to talk about how to feel more in control of sugar cravings after the age of 50. I personally am recording this just before my 56th birthday, which is in April 2026. And if you're also over 50, and even if you're not, this episode is for you because I'll talk about what works for me and what doesn't, and what could work for you to feel more in control of sugar cravings in the second half of your life. We'll get to that in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to tell you that if you're looking for some free resources, then I have plenty for you. First, download my 5 tips to get rid of cravings. And those 5 tips may not be what you think they are. So go to aftersugarclub.com and download your 5 tips today. And while you're at aftersugarclub.com, why not take the cravings quiz? I created this cravings quiz specifically to help you start thinking more deeply about what triggers your cravings. And when you do this quiz, you'll get your personalized score as well as my practical tips to help you take your first step to get rid of cravings. Those free resources are at aftersugarclub.com. And also, come check out the Life After Sugar Facebook page and subscribe to the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, as well as my Instagram account at MyLifeAfterSugar, which is where you'll get all kinds of inspiration so that you can see that it's perfectly possible to live a happy and active life, even if you don't eat sugar. All right, so let's talk about how to feel in control of sugar cravings after the age of 50. So if you're over 50, like me, and sugar cravings feel stronger or harder to manage than they used to, then there's a real biological and hormonal reason for that, because many women notice that what worked in their 30s or even in their 40s suddenly doesn't work anymore. And I myself have noticed that. So I thought I'd make an episode about why sugar cravings, or cravings for salty, crunchy foods in my case, often shift after the age of 50, and how feeling in control again is possible without white-knuckling it or trying to be good around food. So you may have heard my story before, which is that up until my mid-40s, I was the world's #1 sweet tooth and proud of it. And chocolate was my best friend. I couldn't imagine life without sugar and chocolate. And when I stopped eating sugar and chocolate, I started reading lots and lots of books and experimenting with different types of foods. And I actually became pretty knowledgeable about nutrition. And I really began to understand the importance of blood sugar and blood sugar regulation, and especially the role of insulin. And like many of you listening, you may know lots and lots of information, but that doesn't mean that it's easy to put it in practice, and even less so sustainably. So why does it feel like everything shifts or changes once you get into your 50s? Well, one of the biggest changes after 50 is hormonal. Don't get me wrong, 50 is not some kind of a cutoff. Hormonal changes to do with perimenopause can start in your 40s and for some women, even in your 30s. There's actually solid research that shows that estrogen plays a role in insulin sensitivity and blood sugar regulation. And a major review published in Endocrine Reviews in 2013 explained how declining estrogen makes blood sugar more volatile, which means that when blood sugar rises and falls more sharply, the brain responds by pushing for fast energy, which, you guessed it, leads to sugar cravings. And not because you lack discipline, but because your body is trying to correct a dip in your estrogen. And it's not just your hormones, there are also changes on the brain chemistry side. Research on sugar and dopamine, which is known as the feel-good hormone, shows that sugar activates the same reward pathways involved in motivation and habit formation. Which doesn't mean that sugar is a drug in the illegal sense of the word, but it does mean that the brain learns that sugar equals relief or reward. So when life feels harder, the brain suggests what's worked before: sugar. So together with hormonal changes in midlife, the brain and the body can amplify this response, which may help explain why sugar feels more compelling during stressful times or when you're tired or emotional, which may explain why sugar feels more compelling whenever you're feeling stressed or tired or emotional. And it's actually been shown that there is a strong link between stress hormones and eating behavior. For example, cortisol, the main stress hormone, can affect appetite and cravings, especially cravings for foods that give you quick energy, like sugar, or in my case, because I've lost the taste for sweet foods, for salty, crunchy foods like chips or pretzels. And by the time we reach 50, a lot of us carry more responsibility, more emotional history, and often less recovery time. So sugar becomes a form of emotional regulation when other forms of support are missing or depleted. And this has nothing to do with character flaws. It's really a nervous system response. So it's not about controlling food in the sense of white-knuckling things or constantly monitoring, weighing, or tracking your food. It's about finding ways to help your nervous system feel calmer and feel more neutral so that you don't have to turn to sugar or any other comfort foods to calm down. How do you do that? That's what I'll talk about after this short break. I want to take a quick break to say that if this is your first time here, then welcome and thank you for listening to this podcast. And whether you're new or a regular and you haven't yet rated or reviewed this podcast, could I ask you to scroll down and tap on the stars to rate this podcast and also to write a short review to let me know how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. I love reading your reviews. And when you rate and review this podcast, not only does it encourage me to continue making new episodes, but it also helps to share this podcast and have more people see it so that we can help more people feel better and lose weight with less sugar. So again, thank you for rating and reviewing this podcast and for spreading the word about sugar. So just before the break, I was talking about how hormones and also brain chemistry affect us differently when we're 50 plus. But it's not just that. It's also the gut-brain axis and how the gut bacteria communicate with the brain and influence cravings. Because certain bacteria thrive on sugar. So when sugar intake drops for a sustained period, those cravings quiet down. Your tastes change. And the lure of crave-worthy foods well, it disappears. And because cravings often appear when the nervous system wants relief, instead of reaching for these types of foods, you can get that relief from other sources than food. Yes, sugar and comfort foods may be the easiest way of getting relief when you're stressed or tired or emotional, but maybe that's because you weren't taught any other way. So you don't have practice in any other type of coping skill. And yes, you probably know that you can try going for a walk, resting, doing something creative, something pleasurable, to signal to your system that this is me time. Because this isn't about distraction, but rather about building new regulation pathways in your brain and in your gut. Let me give you a concrete example. And this works whether you're over 50 or under 50. But imagine it's after dinner. You finally have time to collapse on the couch and take a moment for yourself. And voila, cravings show up. You feel kind of restless, slightly anxious, and your mind keeps wandering to whatever sugary or crunchy snack you have hidden away in the pantry. And you're feeling empty, but not really hungry. It just feels like something's missing, and that snack will give you instant relief. And then you become like obsessed with this particular snack or food. Obsessed, like you can't stop thinking about it, and you feel totally helpless and powerless to do anything about it. It's like this greater force is making you get up off the couch and go straight to the kitchen, and you can't do anything about it. Now, the goal is not necessarily to stop the cravings. I can tell you 10 years down the line that you'll still get cravings from time to time. I mean, I do. But the goal here is to teach your brain that safety and calmness can come from somewhere else or something else, and to teach your gut that regulation can happen without glucose spikes. And this particular skill requires repetition, not intellectual knowledge, and certainly not negative self-talk and judgment. So just like any new skill, you need to practice a new way of behaving or reacting in the same context that usually gets you running to that sugary or salty, crunchy snack. And let me tell you, as a teacher, but also as a former sugar addict, you won't be good at this at first. You won't be, because you've never done it before. But one thing that I found helped me and helps the women that did my program is to slow down your whole system. You need to find an alternative, not in the sense of an alternative food, but in the sense of an alternative to this highly anxious state where you're obsessing about the food you're craving. You need to slow down your whole system. Slowing down your whole system allows you to lower your cortisol and activate your parasympathetic system and your nervous system in a completely different context that you yourself can create, where your brain registers the message, I'm okay, I'm safe, this isn't an emergency, and where you don't create an emergency with blood sugar spikes and crashes, because the brain learns through predictability and the gut responds to routine, whether that's stress, anxiety, and cravings, or whether that leads to more calmness in that particular situation. If you can learn how to create calmness, even though cravings still show up, especially when cravings show up, then that will be your personal power. And the way to calm your whole system, even if it's the last thing you feel like doing, is different for each person. For some people, it's getting up off the couch and doing some movement, going for a walk or stretching or doing some yoga. For me, I found what works is not washing the dishes right after dinner, but waiting a while and then having that excuse to get up and do something. I'm still going into the kitchen, but it's not to grab a snack. It's actually to do something that I don't really want to do. Wash the dishes. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, around menopause, or in your late 40s or as of your 50s, several things shift in your body. Estrogen is lower and more erratic. Insulin sensitivity decreases. Cortisol, the stress hormone, stays elevated longer. And the calming effect of the hormone progesterone is reduced. And what does that feel like? Well, probably more anxiety or irritability, and for many women, poorer sleep and stronger evening sugar cravings with less tolerance for stress. I know that for me, at the age of almost 56, what's helped me the most is a zero sugar lifestyle, but also hormone replacement therapy. But if you don't have access to HRT or you don't want to go down that route, you can still learn to help your body create a new regulation system, a new signal of safety and stability, a way to lower cortisol, stabilize blood sugar, and lower perceived or real stress. And one way that you can do that through food is to try to eat more protein at your last meal of the day. Unprocessed proteins, as well as unprocessed healthy fats, both of which will nourish you instead of stimulating your insulin. And try not ending the last meal of the day with anything sweet tasting. If you really feel like you need a sort of dessert, then maybe some cheese rather than fruit. Just because for some people, even the sweet taste of fruit can trigger cravings later on in the evening. And yes, this is definitely easier said than done, which is exactly why I created the Freedom from Cravings Formula program. Because I created this program specifically for women over 50 to help you go deeper into your relationship with food, especially sugar, and also into your relationship with yourself. And so that you can get guidance and support to help you stop emotional eating, break free from sugar cravings, slim down, and feel more in control around food. In the program, you'll get step-by-step guidance and customized support through the 5-step formula that I've developed so that you can live your life with more energy and fit into your favorite clothes effortlessly, feel confident in your food choices, and ditch the shame and embarrassment that you feel every time your emotions make you slip or fall off the wagon, and so that you never have to feel like you're on some kind of restrictive diet. If you're at the stage of your life when you're finally ready to look after yourself, let's chat. You can talk directly to me on a free clarity call at any time by going to aftersugarclub.com and clicking on Program at the top. You'll also find the link to talk with me with the show notes together with this episode. So go to aftersugarclub.com. Speak to you soon. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.